This is the story of 8 American women and their journey across Africa.
We are here, can't tell me where.
They're moms, away from their families and traveling outside the USA for the first time.
Can't shower, you gotta go to the bathroom, there's chickens in there.
Follow them on a grueling 6-week overland tour through South Africa, Namibia, Botswana, and Zambia. They'll experience an Africa few people see. Encounter people they never thought they'd meet. Their preconceptions about Africa will be challenged.
The first thing that jumped to my mind was like Tarzan. Some parasite that gets to your brain and eats your brain.
We heard there are no toothbrushes in Africa.
And they'll be stopping to give something back. The travelers board a ferry for a half-hour ride that will take them to the day's history lesson.
You know that's crap though, right? You all go over. I'm like gonna tell your family.
7.5 miles off the coast of Cape Town is the former prison Robben Island. It's only 4.5 square miles. It gets its name from the Dutch word for seals. Surrounded by freezing, stormy, shark-infested waters, Robben Island was a brutal punishment for freedom fighters who opposed racial segregation. Today, the island is a museum designed as a monument to the human spirit.
I didn't know about Robben Island specifically by name. I knew that Nelson Mandela had been held in prison for over 20 years.
I knew that that was where Nelson Mandela was in prison, but that's all I knew.
The prison was meant to isolate, divide, and intimidate. For Nelson Mandela and other political prisoners, the isolation had exactly the opposite effect.
People who work here had been imprisoned here. And so they have a very personal
And they know it very well.
Okay. So I'm looking forward to those conversations.
The women will be given a guided tour by a former political prisoner.
You all right, Mom?
But while waiting for the tour, Kamisha is preoccupied with thoughts of home.
I was calling to tell you where I was. Are you okay? I lost my grandma the Wednesday before our trip. You avoided my question. Mama. She's not good.
No, what's wrong? What's wrong?
She's sad.
No, come on. Well, because her grandmommy, well, your grandmommy, her mommy. You're not feeling like you want to change your
Jackie,
mind?
I love you dearly, but get away from me.
Gotcha.
We buried my grandma on Monday. And it wasn't a good time to leave, and I knew it wasn't, but I left anyway.
She's got more drama than I don't know what.
Hello? I said I'm on the island where Nelson Mandela was prisoner.
Up next, a visit to the cell where the women will experience how Mandela lived for 18 years.
This was a home of Nelson Mandela.
While the moms wait for the tour of Robben Island Prison, Kamisha's reaction to a phone call home has put her at odds with Jackie and Amy O.
Well, she's rude. She didn't have to say, get away from me.
Okay.
I'm cool. I'm all right.
Why is she talking so loud? Kamisha is loud and on that cell phone all the time, and I just think she was so consumed with what was going on in her life that she couldn't experience this trip.
You okay?
Kamisha has left behind so much crisis. A marriage that's breaking up, a mother that is depressed. Death is even included in that.
At the prison gates, the women are met by Modise, who spent 5 years at Robben Island for his political activism during the apartheid years. He now chooses to spend time here as a tour guide to teach others.
I'm standing here in front of this prison which was built and used to house political prisoners. I was a student activist. I was actually 16 years when I got arrested. I arrived here on the 14th of February 1978. Robben Island today symbolizes the triumph of the human spirit against odds. Most of us young guys, this is where we were taught, mentored and nurtured, and we used to call it our University of Life. Please come through.
In 1963, Nelson Mandela was sent into exile at Robben Island after being convicted of treason for resisting the apartheid government.
The fourth window, that was a home of Nelson Mandela for 18 years. This man had to live the rest of his life there, and who knows, maybe die in that cell. Instead, he walks out of that little cell, you will see in a minute. No sense, not a shred of anger or bitterness or hatred. I was the exact opposite of this guy. I was the kind of guy who believed in revolution. I believed in it. I was on fire. I had so much frustration, I had so much anger and hatred. Because of the teachings and lessons of this man, my life turned around 180 degrees. To believe today in forgiveness and reconciliation.
I don't deal with this situation because I'm from the Midwest, you know, the white, the black. But just being here on this trip with these other women, I realized, boy, it is an issue. And I didn't know that. I mean, I really didn't.
Within the solitude of his cell, Mandela developed a philosophy of peace and forgiveness that would become the foundation of post-apartheid South Africa.
You will have a bucket in Mr. Mandela's cell that was used as a toilet for sitting and urinating. They would come out in the morning, bring out the bucket, wash it, clean it, rinse it. 3:30, the beginning of final lockup. You don't want to forget your bucket outside. It was not just tough luck, it was also an offense.
I wanted everybody to look at it as though this was somebody in your family who went through this. Would you still react so lightly? And I have a problem understanding how some people can be so cruel to another being.
How can you forgive that?
If I had not forgiven, I would still be angry, still bitter and frustrated, and emotionally suffering, and therefore a victim. I can choose to stay like that for the rest of my life.
You know, how cool that he could do that. You know, that he could just forgive.
I was near tears, and that was actually a little bit unexpected.
What surprised me about it was how emotional I got while I was there. I really was able to imagine the pain so much more vividly than I ever expected.
This was a home of Nelson Mandela. This is a master key. We were totally at the mercy of those who had this key. Today, this is a symbol of the celebration of my freedom and a symbol of unity and hope for South Africans. Come on, dear.
Oh, you want me to? Oh my God.
You turn it towards me. Okay. You see mats here on the floor so that you have an idea how Nelson Mandela and them used to sleep. Okay. That's the bucket which was used as a toilet. Now, I have never met a man in my life so pure-hearted, so warm, kind, no shred of bitterness, believe me.
The sight of Mandela's cell has forced MB to reflect on the recent murder of a student at the school where she teaches and works as a violence prevention counselor.
You know, we were introduced to forgiveness on such a deep level, and it was hard for me to think of it on a personal level. Like, how do I go back and say, like, hey, Ronnie, I know your brother was murdered a couple weeks ago, but why don't you go forgive his killer? I mean, you know, I can barely grasp that, and I'm looking at how am I going to help a 16-year-old grasp that.
For Kamisha, forgiveness has other implications.
My husband was having an affair. When the person who does the damage doesn't understand fully what harm they've caused, I don't see how forgiveness is beneficial in that respect.
Walls were built to frustrate us, to divide us, to cause bitterness. But when we left Robben Island, we made our decision we will break down these walls of racial prejudice.
So he is where he is because he forgave.
Absolutely.
After 27 years in captivity, Mandela began his long walk to freedom. He later became president of South Africa and won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1993.
God, did I just want a moment. I know Kamisha's intentions were totally like, be strong, I'm here for you. I didn't want to be comforted by anybody at that time. It distracts from the experience. Let's go. I can't. We don't like the camera.
These are communal cells. My own bed in this cell was in this area. This was my home. This was my university. Who I am today My character was developed here. I was in grade 10 when I came in, junior secondary. I left here. I couldn't tie a belt around my waist because I was so skinny, I was thin. I am ever grateful I forgave. That was one of the best decisions I've ever lived to make.
I was very moved. The greatness of the man made that experience even just more overwhelming.
I'm not an emotional person, but I guess it really got to me is how he had forgiven everybody. And that takes a very big person to do that.
I'm not angry. I just want other people to know, People take it so lighthearted, and it just makes me so mad.